Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished loading the last cargo container. Another 12-hour shift at Nexus 7 trading station was finally over. His muscles ached and his stomach growled loudly. Time for some terrible synthetic coffee and whatever food the station cafe was serving today. The cargo bay doors hissed shut behind him as Jake walked through the crowded corridors. Nexus 7 was always busy, filled with hundreds of alien species going about their business. After 3 years working here, Jake had gotten used to the strange sights. Three-eyed merchants, floating jellyfish-like creatures. Some massive rock beings were just part of daily life now. The cafe was packed as usual. Jake squeezed between a group of bird-like aliens and reached the counter. He ordered his coffee and grabbed a protein bar from the display. As he turned to find a seat, someone bumped into him from behind. "Sorry about that," Jake said quickly. Turning around, he found himself face to face with the most beautiful alien woman he had ever seen. She had smooth purple skin that seemed to glow softly under the cafe lights. Silver markings ran along her arms and neck in elegant patterns. Her large eyes were a deep violet color, and she wore simple gray robes that somehow looked expensive. "My fault," Jake said with a friendly smile. "This place gets crazy during shift change." The woman stared at him with an expression he could not read. She seemed surprised that he had spoken to her so casually. Behind her, Jake noticed several other aliens wearing formal military uniforms. They looked nervous about something. Without thinking, Jake did what he always did when meeting someone new. He raised his fist and held it out toward her. "No hard feelings, right?" he said cheerfully. The purple woman looked down at his raised fist. She tilted her head, clearly confused by the gesture. Her violet eyes moved from his fist to his face and back again. Jake realized she had no idea what he was doing. He chuckled and gently took her hand. Her skin felt warm and surprisingly soft. He carefully curled her fingers into a fist, then bumped it against his own. "It's called a fist bump," Jake explained. "Just a friendly human greeting. Shows we're cool with each other." For a moment, the woman just stared at their hands. Then something amazing happened. She laughed. The sound was like wind chimes, musical and bright. It filled the entire cafe and made Jake's smile even wider. But something strange happened next. Every alien in the cafe suddenly went silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. The bird-like creatures froze with their drinks halfway to their beaks. Even the serving robots seemed to pause. The woman seemed delighted by the fist bump. She pulled her hand back and made a fist again, then bumped Jake's fist a second time. She laughed again, clearly enjoying this new experience. "I like this custom," she said. Her voice was elegant but warm. "Do all humans greet each other this way?" "Pretty much," Jake said, relieved she was not offended. "Well, we also do handshakes and high fives, but fist bumps are my favorite." "Simple and friendly." "Simple and friendly," she repeated thoughtfully. "I appreciate that very much." The military-looking aliens behind her were now whispering urgently to each other. They kept glancing at Jake with expressions that looked like panic. Jake wondered if he had accidentally broken some alien custom he did not know about. "I am Lyra," the woman said, interrupting his thoughts.
"Jake?"
"Jake Martinez," he replied. "You new to the station?" "I've worked here 3 years and never seen you around." "Yes, I am just passing through," Lyra said. "Tell me, Jake Martinez, do humans treat everyone equally, regardless of their position or status?" It was an odd question, but Jake answered honestly. "I mean, we try to. Sure, some people get hung up on titles and stuff, but most of us figure everyone deserves basic respect. Doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a janitor, we're all just people trying to get through life, you know?" Lyra's eyes seemed to shine brighter. That is a beautiful philosophy. Jake noticed his protein bar was getting crushed in his hand. He had been so focused on the conversation that he had squeezed it too hard. He broke it in half and offered one piece to Lyra. "Want some? It tastes like cardboard, but it keeps you going." The military aliens behind Lyra looked like they might faint, but Lyra accepted the protein bar with another one of those musical laughs. She took a small bite and made a face. "You are correct. It does taste like cardboard," she said. but the gesture is very kind. They chatted for a few more minutes. Lyra asked questions about Earth, about human culture, about why humans seemed so casual about everything. Jake answered as best he could, though he wondered why she was so interested. Maybe she was a researcher or something. Finally, Lyra said she had to leave. Her entourage was getting more anxious by the minute. She held out her fist one more time, and Jake bumped it with a grin. "Safe travels, Lyra," he said. "Thank you for this experience, Jake Martinez," she replied. "I will not forget it." As Lyra walked away, her military escorts surrounded her immediately. Jake noticed they were bowing slightly as they walked. The cafe remained eerily quiet even after she left. Jake's coworker, Zix, appeared at his elbow. Zix was a veteran trader, a reptilian alien who had been working at Nexus 7 for 20 years. His scales had gone completely pale, which Jake knew meant he was either sick or terrified. Do you have any idea who that was? Some lady named Lyra, Jake said with a shrug. Seemed nice. Why? Zix grabbed Jake's shoulder with one clawed hand. That was Queen Lyra, the Galactic Queen. She was just crowned 3 weeks ago after her father died. She is the most powerful individual in all of known space. Jake's coffee cup slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. What? You just fist-bumped the Galactic Queen, Zix continued, and shared your food with her, and treated her like a regular person. Jake, everyone in this cafe recorded that interaction. It is probably spreading across the entire station network right now. Jake felt his legs go weak. Is that bad? I mean, I was just being friendly. Before Zix could answer, Jake's communicator started beeping frantically. Message after message poured in. Station security wanted to speak with him. News agencies were requesting interviews. His supervisor was asking what the hell had just happened. Then one message appeared that made Jake's heart stop. It was an official communication with the royal seal displayed prominently at the top. Mr. Jake Martinez, you are formally invited to the royal cruiser currently docked at Bay 12. Your presence is requested in 2 hours for an audience with Her Majesty, Queen Lyra. Attendance is mandatory. Transport will be provided. Jake looked at Zix with wide eyes. I think I'm in trouble. Big trouble, Zix agreed. Or something even stranger. With royalty, you never know which is worse. Jake had 2 hours to figure out what he was going to say to the most powerful being in the galaxy. 2 hours to explain why he had treated her like any random person at a cafe. 2 hours to prepare for something he could never have imagined. When he woke up that morning, all because of a simple fist bump. Part 2. An unexpected summons, the royal transport arrived exactly on time. Jake had spent the last 2 hours trying to make himself look presentable, but there was only so much he could do. His work coveralls were the cleanest clothes he owned. At least he had managed to shower and shave. 2 royal guards waited for him at the transport door. They were tall, armored beings with faces hidden behind golden helmets. Neither spoke as they gestured for Jake to enter. The transport itself was more luxurious than his entire apartment. Soft seats, glowing lights, and a viewport showing the vastness of space. The ride to the royal cruiser took only minutes, but it felt like hours. Jake's mind raced with possibilities. Would they throw him in prison for disrespecting the queen? Was this some kind of test? Maybe they thought he was a spy or something. When the royal cruiser came into view, Jake's jaw dropped. The ship was enormous. Easily the size of a small city. Its hull gleamed with polished metal and precious stones. Thousands of lights twinkled across its surface. It was the most beautiful and intimidating thing Jake had ever seen. The transport docked in a bay that looked fancier than any hotel lobby Jake had visited. The floors were made of smooth white stone that reflected everything like a mirror. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Golden pillars lined the walls. As Jake stepped out, he became aware of other aliens in the corridor. They wore elegant clothes and expensive jewelry. When they saw him in his dirty coveralls, they whispered to each other. Some pointed. A few actually bowed in his direction, which made Jake deeply uncomfortable. The guards led him through corridor after corridor. Everything was ridiculously fancy. Jake felt like he was leaving dirty footprints everywhere he walked. Finally, they reached a massive door decorated with alien symbols. The doors opened automatically, revealing a large chamber inside. A group of serious-looking aliens sat in a semicircle at the far end of the room. There were at least 20 of them, representing different species. All wore formal robes, with more of those royal symbols. They stared at Jake like he was a bug under a microscope. Mr. Jake Martinez. One of them spoke. It was a tall, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms. You stand before the Royal Advisory Council. We have questions about your interaction with Queen Lyra.
Oh.
Jake swallowed hard. Okay, I'll answer what I can. For the next 30 minutes, the council interrogated him. They wanted to know everything. Why did he approach the Queen? What was his real purpose? Who sent him? Did Earth have some secret plan? Was the fist bump some kind of coded message? Jake tried to explain that it was just a friendly greeting, that he had no idea who Lyra was at the time. But they did not believe him. They kept insisting that nobody would treat the Queen so casually without some hidden motive. Earth is barely a member of the galactic community, another council member said coldly. Your species is primitive, only recently achieving space travel. Yet you expect us to believe you accidentally befriended our Queen? I didn't befriend anyone, Jake protested. I just bumped into her and wanted to be polite. That's what humans do. We're friendly. Too friendly, the 4-armed alien said darkly. Your behavior was highly suspicious. Jake was starting to get frustrated. He had done nothing wrong, but these aliens were treating him like a criminal. He opened his mouth to defend himself again when a familiar musical voice interrupted. That is enough. Everyone in the chamber immediately stood and bowed. Queen Lyra entered through a side door, still wearing simple robes, but somehow commanding the entire room with her presence. Her violet eyes found Jake, and she smiled. Leave us, she said to the council. I wish to speak with Mr. Martinez privately. The council members looked unhappy, but obeyed without question. They filed out of the chamber, shooting suspicious glances at Jake as they left. Soon, only Jake and Lyra remained. Lyra's formal posture relaxed immediately. She sighed and walked closer to Jake. I apologize for that interrogation. My advisors are overly protective. It's okay, Jake said, though his heart was still pounding. I get it. You're important, and I'm just some random guy. That is precisely why I wanted to speak with you, Lyra said. She gestured to some comfortable chairs near the window. Please, sit. Let me explain. They sat down, and Lyra stared out at the stars for a moment before speaking. I became queen 3 weeks ago when my father died. Since that moment, every single person I encounter treats me like I am made of glass. They bow, they use formal language, they maintain proper distance at all times. Nobody speaks to me naturally anymore. Jake listened carefully, beginning to understand. There are protocols for everything, Lyra continued. How people approach me, how they address me, even how they look at me. I am the most powerful person in the galaxy, yet I feel completely isolated. Then today, I met you. You treated me like an equal. You shared your food with me. You taught me a simple, friendly gesture. She turned to face him. Do you understand how rare that is? How precious. I guess I never thought about it that way, Jake admitted. Being queen sounds lonely. It is extremely lonely, Lyra said softly. Which brings me to a request. I would like you to stay aboard this ship for a few days as my guest. As a cultural consultant. No? Jake blinked in surprise. Cultural consultant. I'm not qualified for that. I load cargo for a living. You're qualified because you are genuine, Lyra said. I want to learn about human culture. About why humans seem so different from other species. You treat authority with respect, but not fear. You value equality. You are refreshingly honest. Will you help me understand? Jake wanted to refuse. This was way beyond anything he had signed up for. But looking at Lyra's hopeful expression, he found himself nodding. Okay, sure. I can teach you about human stuff. But I need to tell my boss I'm taking time off. Lyra smiled brightly. Already arranged. Your supervisor has been informed you are on special assignment. You will be compensated generously. Over the next few days, Jake taught Lyra about human customs. He explained handshakes, high fives, and various greetings. He told her about Earth's history, about how humans had fought terrible wars before learning to cooperate. He shared stories about friendship, loyalty, treating people with basic dignity, regardless of their status. Lyra was fascinated by everything. She learned quickly and asked endless questions. Jake introduced her to human food, and she discovered a love for spicy noodles. They ate together in her private dining room, talking and laughing like old friends. Her advisors watched these interactions with clear disapproval. Jake overheard them whispering about improper behavior and dignity concerns. But Lyra ignored them completely. On the third day, there was a formal dinner with ambassadors from 50 different species. Jake was required to attend wearing formal clothes that Lyra's staff had provided. He felt ridiculous in the fancy outfit, but tried his best to blend in. The dinner was stiff and formal. Everyone spoke carefully, following elaborate protocols. Jake sat quietly, trying not to embarrass himself. Then Lyra stood to make an announcement. Honored guests, she said. I have learned much about human culture these past days. I believe the galactic community can benefit from their unique perspective. Therefore, I am proposing that Earth's status be elevated to full member world, with all associated rights and privileges. Shocked silence filled the room. Full membership was usually earned after centuries of participation. Earth had only been part of the community for 50 years. Before anyone could object, Lyra walked over to where Jake sat. In front of everyone, she held out her fist. Jake hesitated only a second before bumping it with his own. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. This simple gesture represents something important, Lyra announced. Mutual respect between equals. I believe humans can teach us much about breaking down unnecessary barriers. The ambassadors looked outraged. Several stood and began shouting protests. But Lyra remained calm, her fists still touching Jake's. Jake realized his simple fist bump had just created a galactic incident, and somehow he was right in the middle of it. Part 3, Political Firestorm. Jake woke up to find his face on every news network in the galaxy. The footage of him fist-bumping Queen Lyra at the formal dinner had spread everywhere. News anchors debated what it meant. Political analysts argued about Earth's sudden rise in status. Social media was full of opinions, both positive and negative. Some aliens praised Lyra's bold move. They called Jake a symbol of change and fresh thinking. Others were furious. Conservative groups claimed that allowing a human such familiarity with the Queen was an insult to thousands of years of tradition. Ancient species who had dominated galactic politics felt threatened by Earth's sudden importance. The controversy grew worse each day. Jake received hundreds of messages. Some were supportive and kind. Others were death threats from extremists who hated what he represented. A few were marriage proposals from aliens who found the drama romantic. Jake did not know whether to laugh or hide. Back on Nexus 7, his former workplace had become a tourist attraction. Aliens visited the cafe where Jake had first met Lyra. They took pictures and asked the staff questions. The protein bar brand Jake had shared with the Queen saw its sales increase by 300%. Meanwhile, aboard the royal cruiser, tension built within the government. The Grand Council, made up of the oldest and most powerful species, demanded a meeting with Lyra. They were not happy about her friendship with Jake or her decision to elevate Earth status. Jake attended the meeting at Lyra's request. He sat quietly in the corner while 12 council members argued with their queen.
Your Majesty, this human has too much influence over you,
said Chancellor Vorn, the four-armed alien Jake had met before. It is inappropriate and dangerous. Jake is my friend, Lyra said calmly. He has offered me perspective that I value. There is nothing inappropriate about friendship. He is a commoner. A cargo worker, another council member protested. His species is barely civilized by galactic standards. This association damages your dignity and our government's reputation. Jake felt his face burn with embarrassment. He had heard similar insults before, but they still hurt. Humans were always seen as the new kids, the primitive ones who did not understand the galaxy's complex politics. Perhaps that is exactly why I need his perspective, Lyra countered. Humanity's youth gives them fresh eyes. They are not trapped by traditions that no longer serve us well. The argument continued for hours. The council wanted Lyra to distance herself from Jake and cancel Earth's elevation. They claimed other species were threatening to leave the galactic community if humans gained too much power too quickly. Some mentioned that Earth's military was weak and their technology was limited. Giving them full membership would upset the balance of power. Lyra refused every demand. She believed in what she was doing and would not back down. Finally, the council left, but Jake could tell they were planning something. That night, Lyra invited Jake to walk with her in the ship's observation garden. It was a beautiful space filled with plants from 1,000 worlds. Through the transparent dome above, stars stretched in every direction. I am causing you trouble, Lyra said quietly. I am sorry. It's not your fault, Jake replied. You're trying to do the right thing. Those council members are just scared of change. They are not the only ones, Lyra admitted. She showed Jake her communicator. It displayed reports from across the galaxy. Protests, debates, political movements forming on both sides. Half the galaxy supports what we are doing. The other half wants us both gone. Jake watched a news report showing young aliens holding signs that said fist bump revolution and equality now. It was strange. Seeing his simple gesture turned into a political symbol. My father chose me as his heir for a specific reason, Lyra said. He knew the galactic community needed reform. The old hierarchies, the rigid protocols, the way ancient species control everything, while younger worlds have no voice. It has been strangling progress for centuries. He hoped I would have the courage to change things. You do have that courage, Jake said. I've seen it, but courage might not be enough. Lyra touched a flower that glowed softly blue. The council has more power than you realize. They control the military, the economy, centuries of alliances. If they truly oppose me, they could remove me from the throne.
Ah!
Can they do that? Jake asked, alarmed. Technically, yes. If they declare me unfit to rule, they can appoint a new monarch. It has not happened in 1,000 years, but the law allows it. She looked at Jake with worried eyes. I do not want to give up on reform, but I also do not want to start a civil war. And I especially do not want Earth to suffer because of my decisions. Before Jake could respond, Lyra's head of security rushed into the garden. Commander Vex was a massive, insect-like alien who rarely showed emotion. Right now, he looked worried. Your Majesty, we have intercepted communications about an assassination plot. The Hierarchy Preservation Front is planning an attack during tomorrow's ceremony. Jake's blood went cold. Tomorrow, Lyra was scheduled to officially sign the documents elevating Earth to full membership. It was supposed to be a public ceremony with thousands attending. The HPF is an extremist group, Vex continued. They believe any change to the traditional power structure will destroy galactic civilization. We have arrested several members, but their leader remains at large. I strongly recommend canceling the ceremony. If I cancel, they win, Lyra said firmly. They force me to hide, to abandon my principles through fear. I will not do that, Your Majesty. They plan to kill you, Vex said bluntly. Lyra ordered. But the ceremony happens as scheduled. After that's left to arrange additional protection, Jake turned to Lyra. Maybe I should leave. Go back to Earth or something. If I'm not around, maybe the extremists will calm down. Lyra said quickly. That is exactly what they want. They want to isolate me, to prove that friendship across social boundaries is impossible. I need you here, Jake. I need someone who reminds me why I'm doing this. Jake wanted to argue, but he understood. This was bigger than just the two of them now. It had become a symbol for millions of beings across the galaxy who wanted a more equal society. If he ran away, it would send the message that the old guard was right, that people should stay in their proper places. Okay, Jake agreed. I'll stay. But please be careful tomorrow. The ceremony took place in the Royal Cruiser's Grand Hall. Security was everywhere. Armed guards lined the walls, and scanning drones floated above the crowd. Ambassadors from hundreds of worlds attended, along with news crews broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Jake stood on the stage next to Lyra, wearing another uncomfortable formal outfit. Earth's ambassador, a nervous woman named Director Chen, stood on his other side. The plan was simple. Lyra would make a speech, then officially sign the membership documents. Lyra began her speech. She talked about unity, progress, and the importance of giving all species an equal voice. The crowd listened with mixed reactions. Some applauded enthusiastically. Others sat with arms crossed, clearly disapproving. Then Jake noticed something wrong. A service drone near the ceiling was moving strangely, not following the pattern of the other security drones. His instincts from years of working with cargo equipment kicked in. Something about the drone's movement looked off. The drone suddenly accelerated, diving toward the stage. Jake spotted the weapon attachment on its underside. But it was not aimed at Lyra. It was aimed at him. Get down. Jake shouted, pushing Lyra and Director Chen to the floor. The drone fired, but Jake had already moved. The energy blast hit the podium instead, destroying it in an explosion of sparks and smoke. Chaos erupted in the hall. Security guards swarmed the stage while others fired at the drone, destroying it in seconds. But the drone's attack was just a distraction. In the confusion, a figure in the crowd pulled out a weapon and fired toward the stage. Jake, still on the floor, saw the shot coming. Without thinking, he threw himself in front of a group of junior diplomats who had frozen in fear. The blast hit Jake in the shoulder, spinning him around. Pain exploded through his body, and everything went blurry. He heard Lyra screaming his name as he fell. The last thing Jake saw before losing consciousness was security guards tackling the assassin. Then everything went black. Part 4. A human's perspective. Jake woke up in a room filled with soft blue light. His shoulder throbbed with dull pain, but it was manageable. Medical equipment surrounded his bed, displaying alien symbols he could not read. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Easy, a mechanical voice said. A medical drone floated closer. Your wound is healing well, but you must rest. The energy blast damaged muscle and bone, but our technology has repaired most of it. How long was I out? Jake asked, his mouth dry. 2 days, the drone replied. You are very fortunate. A few centimeters to the left, and the blast would have hit your heart. The door to the medical bay opened, and Lyra rushed in. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her violet eyes. When she saw Jake was awake, relief flooded her face. You foolish, brave human, she said, sitting in the chair next to his bed. You could have died. Those diplomats could have died, Jake countered. Someone had to do something. Security was already responding. You did not need to throw yourself in front of an energy weapon. Despite her scolding tone, Lyra took his hand gently. But thank you. Those diplomats you saved were from younger species. They had no protection, no powerful allies. You risked your life for beings who could never repay you. That's what people do, Jake said simply. We help each other. Over the next few days, Jake learned about the aftermath of the assassination attempt. The footage of him protecting the junior diplomats had spread across every network in the galaxy. Public opinion had shifted dramatically. Even species that had mocked humanity before now saw them differently. Brave, selfless, willing to sacrifice for others, the assassin had been captured alive. He was a member of the Hierarchy Preservation Front, just as suspected. During interrogation, he revealed that the plan had never been to kill Lyra. They wanted to kill Jake and make it look like the Queen's reforms had led to his death. They hoped it would turn public opinion against her and force her to resign. They failed, Lyra told Jake during one of her daily visits. If anything, they strengthened support for reform. Younger species see you as a hero. The fact that a human cargo worker protected diplomats, while their own governments did nothing, has embarrassed the old guard terribly. Jake did not feel like a hero. His shoulders still hurt, and he mostly wanted to sleep. But visitors kept coming. Director Chen from Earth brought him messages from home. People all over Earth were celebrating him as a symbol of human courage. His mother had called 17 times, alternating between pride and fury that he had gotten himself shot. Other diplomats visited too. The ones Jake had protected came with gifts and tearful thanks. Representatives from their home worlds pledged support for Earth's membership and for Queen Lyra's reforms. What the assassin had meant to destroy, he had accidentally strengthened. During Jake's second week of recovery, Lyra visited late at night when the medical staff had gone. She looked troubled. "Talk to me," Jake said. "Something's wrong." Lyra sat down heavily. "The Grand Council is demanding an emergency session. They want me to formally distance myself from you and from Earth. They have ... evidence." "Evidence of what?" "Fake evidence," Lyra clarified angrily. "Forged communications suggesting Earth's planned this whole thing. Messages claiming you deliberately manipulated me from the beginning. Testimony from paid witnesses saying Earth is using me to gain power. It is all lies, but they are presenting it to the full Galactic Assembly." Jake felt cold despite the warm room. What happens if the Assembly believes them? They could strip Earth of its new status. They could exile you from galactic space. And they could declare me unfit to rule for being so easily deceived. Lyra's hands clenched into fists. This is what the old guard wanted all along. A way to remove me and stop the reforms while looking like they are protecting the galaxy. "Then we fight it," Jake said. "We show them the truth." "It is not that simple," Lyra said softly. "The Council controls most of the Assembly's votes through alliances and favors. Even if we prove the evidence is fake, they have the political power to push through their agenda. And if I fight too hard, I risk civil war. Species will choose sides. Billions could die." They sat in silence for a moment. Jake thought about everything that had happened since that first fist bump in the cafe. A simple, friendly gesture had snowballed into a galactic crisis. "Tell me something," Jake said finally. "Why did your father really choose you as heir? What did he see in you?" Lyra smiled sadly. "He told me that the galaxy was sick with tradition, that rigid hierarchies were killing innovation and fairness. He said it needed someone brave enough to break the old patterns, even if it meant risking everything." She looked at Jake. "Think he would have liked you? Did he tell you it would be easy?" "No. He warned me it would be the hardest thing I ever did, that the old guard would fight back with everything they had, that I might fail." She paused. "But he also said that doing nothing was worse than failing while trying." Jake nodded slowly. "On Earth, we have a saying. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Basically, if you never try, you've already lost. That is a very human philosophy," Lyra observed. "Maybe, but it's true." Jake struggled to sit up straighter, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Look, I'm just a cargo worker who got lucky enough to meet a queen. I don't know anything about politics or running a galaxy, but I know that what you're trying to do is right. Giving everyone a fair chance, breaking down barriers that don't make sense anymore, that's worth fighting for. Even if we lose. Even if we lose. Because at least we tried. At least we showed everyone that things could be different." Jake met her eyes. "But I don't think we're going to lose. You know why?" "Why?" "Because there are millions of beings out there who want what you're offering. Young species with no voice. Good people trapped in bad systems. They're watching you, Lyra. They need you to keep fighting. And I don't think you're the type to give up." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood, and Jake saw determination replace the doubt in her expression. "You are right. My father did not raise me to surrender. and you did not take an energy blast for me to give up now. That's the spirit, Jake said with a grin. So what's the plan? First, I deal with this emergency assembly session. I let them present their fake evidence. Lyra's eyes hardened. Then I challenge every single lie they tell. I force them to prove their claims publicly where everyone can see. I expose their corruption for what it is. And if they still vote against you, then I take the fight directly to the people. I call for democratic reforms whether the council likes it or not. If they want to remove me for that, let them try. She smiled fiercely. They forget that I am not just a queen. I am also my father's daughter, and he taught me how to fight. The emergency assembly session was scheduled for 3 days later. Lyra spent every moment preparing her defense. Jake, finally released from medical care, helped however he could. Director Chen and other Earth representatives worked to gather their own evidence disproving the council's false claims. On the day of the session, Jake insisted on attending despite his injury. Lyra tried to convince him to rest, but he refused. If we're going down, we go down together, he said. That's what friends do. The assembly chamber was packed. Representatives from over 1,000 worlds filled the seats, watching on massive screens. Chancellor Vorn stood at the central podium, looking smug and confident. Honored members of the Galactic Assembly, he began. Today we present evidence of a conspiracy between the human, Kate Martinez, and Earth's government to manipulate our beloved Queen Lyra for political gain. For 2 hours, the council presented their case. Fake messages, paid witnesses, carefully edited videos. To anyone who did not know the truth, it looked damning. Jake felt sick watching the lies pile up. When they finished, Vorn turned to Lyra. Your Majesty, what do you say to these accusations? Lyra stood. She walked to the podium, her simple robes somehow more regal than all of Vorn's formal decorations. She looked out at the assembly with calm, determined eyes. I say they are lies, she stated clearly. Every single one, and I can prove it. For the next 3 hours, Lyra systematically destroyed every piece of fake evidence. She brought technical experts who proved the messages were forged. She presented security footage showing the witnesses being paid off by council operatives. She revealed financial trails showing the whole conspiracy was funded by conservative factions. But she did not stop there. She went further, exposing decades of corruption within the Grand Council itself. Bribes, illegal deals, manipulation of younger species. She had been preparing this for longer than Jake realized. Gathering evidence her father had collected before his death, the assembly sat in stunned silence as the truth came out. Finally, Lyra delivered her final statement. The question before you today is not whether Earth and Jake Martinez conspired against me. They did not. The question is whether we continue allowing a corrupt old guard to control our future, or whether we build something better. Something more fair. I propose immediate democratic reforms. Equal representation. Merit-based leadership. An end to the hierarchies that have held us back for millennia. She paused, then said something that shocked everyone. And if this assembly refuses these reforms, then I will abdicate my throne and lead the reform movement as a private citizen. Because what we are fighting for is bigger than any crown. Jake's heart pounded. She was going all in. Risking everything, the chamber erupted into chaos. Part 5. The Fist Bump Revolution. The Galactic Assembly Chamber descended into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate reforms. Others insisted on maintaining tradition. Chancellor Vorn tried to restore order, but his voice was drowned out by the noise. Across the galaxy, billions watched the broadcast. In homes, workplaces, and public squares on thousands of worlds, beings saw their queen take a stand. Within hours, something remarkable began to happen. Protests erupted on younger worlds. Citizens took to the streets carrying signs with simple messages. Equality now, and merit not hierarchy. But the symbol that appeared everywhere. On banners and painted on walls was an image of 2 fists touching. The fist bump had become the symbol of a movement. Even on older, more conservative worlds, younger generations joined the protests. They had been waiting for someone with power to challenge the system that kept them locked in place. Queen Lyra had given them hope. Back on the royal cruiser, Lyra watched the news reports with Jake by her side. The movement was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. But not everyone supported it. Conservative groups organized counter-protests. Some species threatened to secede from the galactic community if reforms passed. The galaxy was splitting into two camps. Civil war, Lyra said quietly. This is what I feared. It's not war yet, Jake pointed out. It's people expressing their opinions. That's called democracy. Democracy can be messy, Lyra replied, watching footage of heated debates in assembly halls across the galaxy. Better than the alternative, Jake said. At least everyone gets a voice now. Over the next 3 weeks, the crisis reached its peak. The Grand Council tried to declare Lyra unfit to rule, but they could not get enough votes in the assembly. Too many representatives supported reform. The old guard found itself losing power for the first time in centuries, but they did not go quietly. Several ancient species announced they would leave the galactic community if the reforms passed. Others threatened economic sanctions. The threat of collapse hung over everything. That was when something unexpected happened. Earth stepped up. Director Chen and her team worked around the clock, acting as mediators between opposing factions. Humans had a reputation for finding compromises, for bridging differences. They had learned those skills from their own difficult history of conflicts and cooperation. Human diplomats met with conservative species, listening to their concerns. They acknowledged that rapid change was scary, that traditions had value. But they also made the case that societies must evolve or die. They shared Earth's own story of overcoming division through mutual respect and equal rights. Slowly, carefully, compromises began to form. The reforms would pass, but gradually. Ancient species would maintain advisory roles while younger species gained voting power. Traditional ceremonies would be preserved, but hierarchical barriers would be reduced. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Jake watched the diplomats work with growing pride. This was humanity at its best. Not the strongest or the smartest, but the most adaptable. The most willing to find common ground. Finally, after 6 weeks of negotiations, the assembly voted. The reforms passed with a strong majority. The galactic community would restructure over the next decade, moving toward a more equal, merit-based system. Queen Lyra would remain on her throne, but with new checks and balances. The day the vote was announced, Lyra held a formal ceremony to sign the new compact. It was held in the same grand hall where Jake had been shot. This time there were no assassination attempts. Security was tight, but the mood was celebratory rather than tense. Representatives from every species in the galactic community attended. The ceremony was broadcast to the entire galaxy. Jake stood on stage again, his shoulder fully healed now. Wearing yet another uncomfortable formal outfit, Lyra gave a speech about unity, progress, and the courage to change. She thanked everyone who had fought for reform, including those who had opposed her but ultimately found common ground. Then she did something nobody expected. She stepped down from her throne and walked to the edge of the stage. Starting with the nearest ambassador, she offered a fist bump. The ambassador, a dignified lizard-like being from an ancient world, looked confused at first. Then understanding dawned, and he returned the gesture. Lyra moved through the crowd, offering fist bumps to representative after representative. Some were enthusiastic. Some were awkward. A few clearly found it strange, but all participated. It took over an hour, but Lyra fist-bumped every single ambassador. Present, the image of their queen, the most powerful being in the galaxy. Bumping fists with the lowest-ranking diplomats from the smallest worlds sent a powerful message. Hierarchy still existed, but it no longer meant some lives mattered more than others after the ceremony. Lyra found Jake in the crowd. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything." "I didn't do much," Jake replied. "You did all the hard work. You reminded me why I started this fight," Lyra said. "And you showed the galaxy what humans are capable of. Your people are natural bridge builders. We need that." "What happens now?" Jake asked. Now, the real work begins. Implementing the reforms will take years. There will be setbacks and resistance. But the direction is set." She smiled. and Earth will play a major role. Your people have earned respect throughout the galaxy. That's good to hear. But I think I'm ready to go home, Jake admitted. Being in the spotlight is exhausting. I miss my simple life. Can never have that simple life back, Lyra said gently. You are famous now. Everyone knows your name and face. But I understand wanting to return to Earth. She was right. His old life was gone. But maybe that was okay. Maybe it was time for something new. Actually, I have a counterproposal, Jake said. What if I go back to Nexus 7? Back to my old job or something like it? But also work part-time as a cultural advisor. Help other species understand humans better. Build connections one conversation at a time. Lyra's eyes brightened. That is a perfect idea. The reforms work best when supported by personal relationships, not just political agreements. You could be very effective in that role. Plus, I genuinely like loading cargo, Jake said with a grin. Keeps me grounded, literally. They made the arrangements over the next few days. Jake would return to Nexus 7 with an official position as cultural liaison. He would work his normal job, but also meet with diplomats, answer questions about humanity, and help facilitate understanding between species. The position came with a decent salary and benefits, but Jake insisted on keeping his old apartment and lifestyle. On his last day aboard the Royal Cruiser, Lyra walked Jake to the transport bay. They stood awkwardly for a moment, not sure how to say goodbye. We will stay in touch, Lyra said. I will need your advice as the reforms progress. Anytime, Jake promised. Just send a message. I'm pretty easy to reach. Jake, I want you to know something. Lyra's expression became serious. You changed my life. You changed the galaxy. All because you were willing to treat a stranger with basic kindness and respect. Never underestimate the power of simple gestures. Jake thought about how far they had come from that first encounter in a crowded cafe. A single fist bump had led to friendship, political upheaval, assassination attempts, and ultimately galactic reform. It seemed impossible, yet here they were. Right back at you, Jake said. You had the courage to risk everything for what was right. That's pretty impressive for someone who started out not even knowing what a fist bump was. They both laughed. Then Lyra held out her fist one last time. Jake bumped it firmly, the gesture now feeling like a promise. A promise that what they had started would continue. That change was possible. That friendship could bridge any gap. Jake boarded the transport and watched through the viewport as the Royal Cruiser grew smaller in the distance. He felt a mix of emotions. Relief to be going home, sadness to leave a friend, but most of all, hope for the future. When Jake arrived back at Nexus 7, he was surprised by the welcome. Station workers had organized a small celebration. His old co-worker Zix presented him with a gift, a custom station uniform with his new title embroidered on it. Cultural Liaison sat right under his name. We're proud of you, Zix said. You made us all look at humans differently. Made us look at everything differently. Jake's old job was waiting for him, along with his new responsibilities. He fell back into the rhythm of station life easily. Loading cargo, drinking terrible coffee, chatting with coworkers. But now diplomats also sought him out, asking questions about Earth and humanity. He helped resolve cultural misunderstandings and facilitated new friendships. One day, about 3 months after returning, Jake was grabbing lunch at the same cafe where everything had started. As he turned from the counter, he accidentally bumped into a young alien he had never seen before. The alien looked lost and overwhelmed, clearly new to the station. Without thinking, Jake held out his fist and smiled. Sorry about that. You okay? The young aliens stared at Jake's raised fist, recognition dawning in their eyes. You're Jake Martinez, they said in awe. The one who taught the Queen about humans? That's me, Jake confirmed. But I'm also just a guy trying to get some lunch. Want to learn the fist bump? It's a good way to say hello. Alien's face lit up with excitement. Jake taught them the gesture, and they practiced it several times, laughing at their clumsiness. Other aliens in the cafe watched with smiles. What had once been shocking was now becoming normal. Thank you, the young alien said. I came to this station hoping to meet different species and learn about the galaxy. Starting with a fist bump from a legend is better than I imagined. Not a legend, Jake corrected gently. Just a regular person who believes everyone deserves respect. Now, want to grab a table? I can tell you about the best places to eat on this station. As they sat down together, Jake's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Lyra. Saw the news report about you teaching fist bumps to new arrivals at Nexus 7. You're still changing the galaxy, one person at a time. Keep up the good work, my friend. Jake smiled and typed a quick reply. That's the plan. One fist bump at a time. He put away his communicator and returned his attention to the young alien, who was asking eager questions about Earth. Around them, the cafe buzzed with life. Hundreds of species, all different, all sharing space and stories. Some were important politicians. Others were workers like Jake. But in this moment, in this place, they were all just people trying to connect. And that, Jake thought, was exactly how it should be. The galaxy was changing. Not because of grand speeches or political maneuvering, though those mattered, but because of small moments of genuine connection, because beings were choosing to see each other as equals. Worthy of respect and friendship, it had started with an accidental bump and a simple gesture. A fist bump between a cargo worker and a queen. That small seed had grown into something beautiful. A revolution of respect, one friendly greeting at a time. Jake looked out the cafe window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there on 1,000 worlds, beings were choosing kindness over hierarchy. They were breaking down barriers that had stood for millennia. They were building a better galaxy, and it had all started with someone being willing to see a stranger not as a title or a species, but simply as a person. That was humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not superior technology or military might, but the radical idea that everyone, regardless of status or origin, deserved to be treated with dignity. Jake finished his lunch, said goodbye to his new friend, and headed back to work. There was cargo to load, diplomats to meet, and connections to build. Just another day on Nexus-7. Just another day in a galaxy that was slowly learning. What humans had always known, that respect was not about distance, it was about connection. And sometimes, the simplest gestures carried the most profound meaning. The end.